everybody. Thank you for being here for session 2 with Miss Allison Larson, Solo to Synergy. I wanted to start out by just saying, Allison, that your approach to business is so refreshing. I think all of us could pull out our hair if we heard over and over again, just make 100 more calls, just see more people. And while you believe in massive activity and you are one of the fastest implementers I know, what I do see as a distinct difference is the way you are strategic in what you do, because you're not trying to work a bazillion hours. The mindset that you have around your approach, thinking always, how does this feel for the other person? How would I want to be followed up with? And you're very intentional about everything that you do. And I think there's a reason why you've grown your business from 15 million a year to 50 million a year in this market. And you've been staying over 50 million a year with just one teammate. Oh, by the way, having a baby, Sawyer, 10 months old, being pregnant a second time, you might just have Irish twins, girl. I don't
We'll be pretty close. Yeah.
And I'm just saying it, I'm putting it out there, but I mean, I think you're on track to probably hit 80 or 90 million, but
I heard you say that on Instagram earlier, and I'm like, if you put it out there now, I'm like, oh, I gotta hit 80 million now. How else are we gonna do it?
So maybe I did that to help you. Well, here's what everybody's saying about last week, what helped them. Find who you are best aligned with regards to kids and hobbies. Yes, I love that takeaway from last week. Work with people similar than you that are feeding their kids at the same time as you, that have the same lifestyle. Don't waste time with the wrong people. Yes, Greg. The flip book. Yes, the flip book was so powerful. That is in the takeaway. When we do the follow-up from this course, we will send the recording, and it will include the recording of week 1 and the resources from week 1. One takeaway to work on for the next week, and how you differentiate. Definitely not wasting time with the wrong people. For 2 years, I've worked with anyone I could, but being a little more picky now, and it's already paying off. Allison, the floor is yours. I know today you've got so much planned for us, so take it away.
Yeah. One thing I want to start with is the number one messages I got in my DMs after the session, which, by the way, thank you everyone for messaging me and tagging me. Getting to do stuff like this, I told Shayla, gives you and like me, it gives me so much energy. Like doing this on a short week after Memorial Day, you kind of have the ick in you, like that's the last thing you want to do, but having to sit and plan this out and think through it, put some pep in my step. We came into the week ready. So thank you for even listening and caring and wanting to grow with us. If you're watching and you get anything from this week or anything from last week, please tag us on Instagram, message us. We'd love to connect. But one message I got a ton of was, okay, just like, how are you doing it all? Like, you're a mom and you've got this. And I think one thing that we have to let go of is that you probably can't do it all, right? Like at the end of the day, something might fall a little bit short. And we also have to get everyone around us's buy-in to be able to do as much as we can. Shay, you're really good at, like, your husband is a huge integral part of your life success in your business and the kids and being a good mom. So many of us build these visions and these goals in our heads, and we're scared to even share them with our spouse, we need the most buy-in from, right? Like a year ago, I was exhausted. Every food I saw made me nauseous because I was pregnant. And I like looked at my husband. I'm like, I can't make dinner anymore. Like, you have to be responsible for making dinner. Am I always happy with dinner? No, but he makes it every single day. That is his thing that he's got, because he knows I might have pre-approval meetings until 5 o'clock on the dot, and otherwise it doesn't happen. So being just really clear on those expectations and being totally okay if it doesn't go perfect. I did a video last week. Literally, my husband texted me and was like, who's picking up kids from school? No one was. We literally forgot them there. Like, those are the little things, like, that happens sometimes, and everything is okay. You'll get them home. They will be okay. They didn't even know we forgot them. It wasn't a big deal. But just figuring those things out and not being too hard on yourself. And everything you hear on these podcasts, on these webinars, on mortgage coach calls, whatever it is, it's all trial and error, right? Like, what works for me might not work for you. You don't need to overhaul your business overnight or get stuck in the weeds trying to replicate what someone else is doing. Do what feels best to you. Track your stats so that you're crystal clear on what's working and what's not working. Try it 2 different ways and figure out what works for you and what doesn't, and then go with what works for you and lean into that. Don't just try and overhaul everything because someone had a good idea. And then in full transparency, I am not a slide person, but I did pull together because the other question I was getting a lot of was about what my calendar looks like and how we're getting all of this in. So for reference, we meet with a lot of realtors in person, and then all of our pre-approvals we try and do on Zoom or Teams as well. Plus, I'm a branch manager, so I'm leading and trying to recruit and do those things on top of it. There's a lot of moving pieces in the day. I'm just going to share this screen with you guys real quick if I can. So you can see I did a snippet of what my actual calendar looked like last week, not a perfect, in a perfect world, does it always look like this? No. But literally you can see I book myself back to back all day long. Everything has to be incredibly intentional. You can see Shannon, who's my right-hand person, was out last week, so it was ugly, which is probably why this PowerPoint isn't prettier. So I just didn't have time to do it. Shay can attest on my coach call last week. I was literally sitting in a parking lot. My phone kept turning off because it was overheating in the car. That is just sometimes how the world works. And you just figure it out and you fit it all in. But I literally booked myself back to back. And then the weeks leading up to it, my team doesn't just work off a blank calendar. They know here's where the time blocks are built in for what we can fit in. And then if it's white space time and I don't need to physically be driving somewhere, you can fill it. But ideally, they fill the time blocks meant for certain things first. So this is my calendar a couple weeks out, so it doesn't have much on it. And you can see I have holds in here for pre-approval meetings. We block them for 30 minutes. I try and do them back to back. I try and block enough time for everything that in a perfect world, if these time blocks are filled, I have my pre-approval meetings that I need to hit every single week. There's enough time for them. The realtor appointments. When am I going to call to schedule the realtor appointments? I used to put email in here and that it just didn't really work. So I took some of those things out. But we really, really do try and follow all of this to a T. And the whole team understands why we follow it. And on Fridays, we go through the next week calendar so that when we show up on Monday morning, it doesn't feel like a chaotic scramble. And then that way, a week in advance, I can go, hold on, guys, there's no time for me to drive from point A to point B. Did you book me a conference room somewhere to do that Zoom meeting, or what does that look like? And now that we all follow this routine, everyone's got it dialed in a plan. It's not always perfect, but this is how we follow it. And kid stuff goes in the calendar. If I've got something personal, it goes in the calendar. If I've got a hair appointment, anything like that, it goes in the calendar so the team knows. And then before 8 a.m. is my time. So we don't schedule anything before that without asking me. And then after 4 p.m., they have to check with me too, just in case someone's got volleyball, someone's got baseball, so that we can work those things in. Because sometimes we all know it might be better to take a 7 p.m. client call than a 5 p.m. client call. And usually the client doesn't care. They just can't talk during the business days.
I want to ask you a few questions here.
Yeah.
So you've obviously put in here that to hit your goals, which how many loans a month are you trying to hit?
The goal is 15. We've been averaging more around 20.
Okay. So if you're going to close 15 loans a month, how many pre-approval meetings are you want those face-to-face Zooms that you're doing? Do you need per week?
I need 8.
You need 8. So I see on Friday, you've got about an hour and a half booked for pre-quals. I see on Thursday, you've got an hour, and on Tuesday, you have an hour.
It's a scrunched calendar, hour and a half, and then this is 2 hours.
Oh, you just scrunched it down. Okay. So you've got 5 hours a week for pre-quals. Now, sometimes is Shannon taking those? Because I know a big part of this scaling up series, and that's going to be more the third call. We're going to talk about your team and what does Shannon do? What do you do? How did you actually create somebody of the same caliber and class and poise as you and Shannon? So tell us about that, because I'm assuming sometimes they don't fit in these blocks, or you need more in a week.
So sometimes we need more. If we need more, then typically they'll go in like one of these prospecting call times. What we don't ever mess with, if it's for realtor appointments, it needs to be booked for realtor appointments. Or for an agent lunch, it needs to be an agent lunch. But otherwise she'll squeeze them in. Like this week back, you can see we we had some right here. We had one on Tuesday night. So she'll squeeze them in the blank space. So I don't talk to the client at all until Shannon has them fully pre-approved. So any person that's making it on the calendar is fully pre-approved. We've seen all of their documents. We've done a full underwrite on the file, which is Shannon doing their full pre-approval. They've been sent numbers, they've been sent all of their rent versus buy scenario. I'll go through that a little bit too. And when I'm getting on this call, I'm spending 1 minute beforehand reading through the checklist of all of the information I need to know. And if I'm really annoying to work for one reason, it is this checklist. Like if it takes me longer than a minute to decipher your notes, it's too much because I'm doing them back to back. So I need to be able to get on and have a complete. They have kids, they don't have kids, they own a house, need to be contingent, they're scared about this. Here's their top end, here's their comfort level. They said they want to put 20% down, but I see $500 in their checking account. Anything like that, I need to know right away so I don't even have to log into their file. I don't log into their file, actually. I get on the team or Zooms, I have the PDFs pulled up, I have the numbers pulled up, and we just dive into it. And I mean, we do the small talk and all of that up front, but I confirm with them, okay, looks like on my notes, Shannon has down here, your comfort level is this, we're thinking condo, it's just you purchasing it. Is there any other people we should be including that's a decision maker? All of that is right up front. So that way, if something's gone haywire in the notes or the communication, I can quick pivot it. And of course, real time, I can jump in their file and pull other options, but I'm not doing all of that legwork up front or talking to anyone who isn't fully pre-approved. If we get the person who's a rate shopper, who is like, hey, I'm just shopping around for rates, Shannon will just send them a loan summary. You're just throwing something out the window and seeing what sticks. They're not getting on a Zoom with me though.
They're not going to get the VIP service. And we talked about this at the retreat a lot. And in the Catalyst coaching, we're going to talk about it a lot. Like if you are a high paid consultant, you're a leader, not a helper. Well, what would a leader do? If you were the best attorney in town, or let's say you got the DUI and now you have to call the best attorney in town, what would that client experience look like? And we're going to pivot into client experience. I just want to other things on here because I'm always amazed, Allison, by how quickly you respond to things. Number one. Number two, that you make time for seemingly everything that gets thrown your way. You're like, sure, I'll help this person. Yeah, I'll get on that call. And oh yeah, I've got time for a coaching call with that person or recruit. And like you've got this like effortless grace. I know you might be the duck that's swimming. I want to know, under the water, are you like really like or have you really just dialed in your plan and trusted your plan, and you're not really that crazy anxious freak underwater like the most of us? Okay.
So as soon as Shannon was out, I was good this day. And then about this time on Friday, I could feel like tears welling up behind my eyes of like, I can't keep my head on straight. I'm supposed to have a 3 o'clock call and I don't know that it just happens, but it's how you just take it and how quickly you move on from it and transition from it, that it's okay. I just shared this with someone on my team this morning. 90% of the things I don't know who said this stat or how they came up with the percentages, but I've gone with it for about a decade. 90% of things we worry about never come to fruition. And the 10% that do, we have zero control over. So if you're sitting and spiraling and worrying about the one deal or the one thing, write down on a piece of paper. I keep a notes thing. I'm a fast responder because I'm a high anxiety person. I have to get it off the list or I can't sleep. I can't go to bed with an inbox that has read email. I can't do it. So in my phone, I keep a notes section. It's labeled thoughts. And in the notes section, if I've got a good idea, it goes in there. If I'm spiraling or worrying about something that's blocking me from getting to the next thing on the calendar, I write down the worst possible scenario that happens if what I'm worrying about comes to fruition. And when you see it written out, it seems so ridiculous because it doesn't even matter if that happens typically. We have a client who's been somehow ghosting us for a week and a half. I've been spiraling about losing the deal. They finally replied to us. They've just been on vacation. We didn't lose the deal. They didn't know it was important to respond. But I've been spiraling about it. So I put what the absolute worst thing that happens is. It's a $300K loan. So I lose the commission on that. And the worst thing to me that would really happen is they would tell their agent that they think we suck and we're not good or whatever. And when I realized, I'm like, and the agent is the sweetest human ever, and we'll be like, that's just not true. And so I was worrying about literally nothing. And those are the things that get us in the mental block from being able to go back to back and kind of pick up the pieces and go to the next thing. And as soon as you can get that skill to control the anxiety and put one foot in front of the other and just keep on going, you're golden. And sometimes it feels like the duck underwater, but you can get really good at being the little duck feet underwater, right? And if that's your
Yeah,
new norm,
you
your feet
become
go
a
that pace.
strong swimmer.
Yeah, you just figure it
And
out.
someone who loves to swim, and not and it's a really the story about how it comes, right? Because it's the frame under like, whoa, I got another thing. And do you go, ah, or do you go, oh, yay, oh, I got that. Okay. Oh, I get a little worried. Let me put it in the notes. Let me do this right. It's actually systematizing the way you work to figure out how to optimize your performance. And it's just fun to ask you these kinds of questions because like there's perception, there's reality, right? And you had said once that people, if they look at me on social, have told me your life looks too perfect. You look so polished, blah, blah, blah. Right. And I think everybody's wondering that. Like somebody was just asking Billy the other day, like, is Shayla like that all the time? She's like, fuck no. Like some days she comes in crying, some days she's screaming and banging her fist on the desk. Like I'm a real human that is going through all these insecurities and everything else. We get to share like one tiny sliver of our life out there. So last question before we move through this, and I'm assuming it's happening today, but you've got, if you go to the next slide again, you've got outreach calls and you've got daily hustle on here. And I know that's in addition to coming to my Monday sales call, and you come to the lift call, which is the branch manager coaching that. So you're doing a ton of coaching and self-development in the midst of working at a kick-ass pace. And I'm just wondering if you're going to touch on an outreach daily hustle on this call because it's up here and I didn't want to miss it.
So outreach, I'm going to talk on daily hustle. So for us, daily hustle's at noon, which is sometimes during my realtor lunches. So I don't always get on daily hustle, but Monday to me, we need something to help kick off our week. Like I need that to keep me going. I need that to get excited. I realized even since switching to Guild, Brock sent me a podcast this morning. I already listened to half of it, voice memoed him, 2 things I'm going to implement. He's like, yep, I'm doing this too. That's the kind of energy I need to get me through the day and to get me excited. And then it shifts your mentality of like, I'm getting shopped. They don't think I'm good enough to, okay, I just heard this new script. I'm just going to try it on this call and see how it sticks. And it kind of feels like a project or something fun to work on versus it feeling like a mundane task that you have to get through on your list. And as soon as you shift the frame of reference on that, I think that's the big needle mover. Also, keep in mind when I thought about this earlier because I feel like I talk about working 40 hours a week a lot. It's not, guys, like I turn off my email at 4 o'clock if if I'm done. If I past 4 o'clock, I'm just not responding to things that don't need to be responded to, that aren't super urgent, or that I'm not excited to work on. If I have a heavy coaching call day, or I've decided I'm going to take 90 minutes to listen to something in the middle of the workday, I'm probably making up for that somewhere else in the evening or on the weekend on client stuff. I'm not counting my 40 hours a week of, oh, I listened to a podcast. No, that's like in the morning or at night. And I think as I talk to loan officers, they do count, well, I'm always on my email and I'm always doing this. But that's just part of life. That's not really, you would check your Nordstrom spam email just as much as you'd check your work email. That's just being a human in this existence. I think it's good to block off time where you don't touch your phone at all. But sometimes it does take a little bit more. Oh, I'm going to respond to this text or confirm my meetings for tomorrow before bed or whatever that looks like.
Awesome. We in the old days referred to it as green time versus red time. And even older days was, am I being productive or am I being active? And I remember having a boss once, this dude, he would walk around the phone like rah, 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 acting like swearing and doing all this stuff. And I was like, what is he doing? I think he's like acting busy, but like, is it moving the needle? Like, what is going on? And so I think that that's a really good reflection of first putting in your calendar what you think needs to happen for your plan, right? I've been talking about this trifecta that first you have to believe it's possible. The reason I really wanted y'all to meet Allison is because she's a real person succeeding at a really high level right now in a way that I think is attractive to most of us who have young kids and a family and are, wanting to do it in a way that's generative and wanting to double our business. So once you see it, you can't unsee it. Once you know that she's doing it, all of a sudden we can't come up with those excuses because we're like, well, shoot, now I know it's possible to be an engaged mother and pregnant and growing a branch and recruiting and building a business and being generous to others and working with the kind of realtors I want to work with. So first you got to conceive it to believe it. You've got to see it. The second thing is then you have to have a plan. So the reason I wanted her to expand on the calendar is because that is literally your life plan. If you want to know why you're not happy with your health and your wellness, look at your calendar and figure out where you dedicate time to that or not. If you're not happy with your love relationship, where's that time in your life? So that's the reason I asked, if you want to close X, how many pre-approval meetings do you have? The other last thing, and I know this was not planned to talk all about time management, but this is just digging into you, Allison, is you only have 2 agent lunches on here, which, forever it was like, I got to have 15 meetings and I got to have 5 face-to-faces, and it all just felt like a lot. So for you to be growing your business from 50 million to 80 million, is that enough? How do you think about the agent lunches and that being sufficient for your goals?
So because we're really intentional about the people that we're meeting with, yes. I won't even go to lunch with someone unless we're doing business together. Like, we don't need to sit down for a full lunch. You could get stuck there for 90 minutes. There is no like, this isn't a good fit. I got to scoot. It's been 20 minutes, opt out. And you're picking up the tab. We're also very cost effective with things. So I really try and do coffees and then I'll stack them. So for these realtor appointments, I might have one right at 8 o'clock and then I'll do them back to back in the same location so I can get 2 in there. And I can try and keep them to 45 minutes and pivot. And then I spend a lot of time on the phone with my people. So if I'm in the car, that's my time to be connecting with the people I already know, like, and trust. And because a lot of my agents are busy people and their moms and the whole thing, they don't want to traipse to go to lunch with me. A lot of times when it's nice out in Minnesota, some of my top agents will go on a walk before at 7 a.m. I used to, now I'm pregnant again and blah, 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 off routine, but I used to go to a gym and I like traipsed all of my agents to this gym. They all became members and we did bar class together at 5:45 a.m. Tuesdays and Thursdays. So we kind of buy in and are involved in the same thing. So it's really easy to stay in touch with them. Paige, one of my top agents, last week, Sunday, we went to brunch with Sawyer, right? Like you kind of get those relationships at some point where I don't need to fill a Tuesday or Wednesday lunch with her. I also talk to her every single day in the car or whatever that looks like. And then my really, really busy agents, I see them twice a year. They have no interest in having lunch with me once a month. That's completely unnecessary to them. Most agents, I'm seeing them once or twice a year for one-on-ones. And besides that, they're coming to an event. Or I'm seeing them at a different event. So that's where the events really come into play because I can leverage seeing a lot of people, or I can talk to them on the phone for 30 minutes and catch up. And that satisfies that too.
All right, so this is a plug for Allison on Instagram. Allison, will you go in the chat and drop your Instagram handle? Because yes. I want you to see what she does for events. Pay attention because I really think that you're absolutely right on in terms of her events. So let's bounce to the latter half of the meeting that you wanted to talk about. And I'm letting you take over again. I'm going to stop questioning you. But I do think that all the in-between stuff is like so fascinating to learn. So thank you for I working side by side with you and you being here. I haven't gotten to see like your real calendar in your real life. So this has actually been the coolest for me to see.
And being in so much, like, you couldn't name a lender who's coached on something or spoke on something that I haven't watched everything about their business. And so rarely do people actually show you they'll tell you what their ideal calendar looks like or what their time block looks like, but they won't just pull up what their actual calendar looks like for you to go, well, so like, when do you feed your kids? Or the amount of lenders who are like, and then my last pre-approval is at 7 p.m. I'm like, wait, my kid goes to bed at 7. Like, I can't do that. Then it's not worth it to me. So it's figuring out the balance for you. So we left off the last one on, okay, realtor appointments. Now we've followed up with them. Okay, so they send us a lead. Now what? When they send us a lead, you should get butterflies in your stomach of like, this is it. They're asking me on a second date. This is my time to shine. How do I think of any little thing that I can show them? I am night and day difference from their current lender. I think a lot of us have a hard time tooting our own horn. We're scared to overstep. We don't want to be annoying. We just want to kind of go into, like you said, the helper mindset and be like, okay, I'm just going to take this. I'm going to run with it. But in reality, they kind of need to hear from us what we're doing or why we're different and have that first lead they send us. We also need to explain to them what our system looks like, why we do it that way. We haven't talked on any of those things. And I think a lot of us probably do a million things a realtor has no idea that we're doing to try and help their business. Even, from the most basic task of the first time you talk to the lead, doing a triangle for trust and really selling your realtor partner again. So many of us do that and don't ever tell the realtor, hey, this is what I'm going to say about you every single time you refer me a client. I don't even care if they're your brother. This is what they're going to hear from me every single time. Guys, pop in the chat. This always amazes me. Because I've been coached for a long time or listened to coaching stuff, I always think every person uses a lead tracker and tracks all of their leads as they come in, and everyone has a pre-approval tracker. Pop in the chat if you actively track every single lead, every single person that says so-and-so is going to contact you, because I think not as many people do sometimes as I realize, and it's a key piece of the detail. And then, are you living and breathing that lead tracker? The first thing my team knows to do every morning is lead tracker, because it's lead to conversion. How quickly can we get them pre-approved, out looking, to stop the need from shopping and getting a rocket mortgage quote or whatever. Someone just said Salesforce life-changing. We're really fortunate here that we can remove ourselves from the spreadsheet life and use Salesforce. And so it actually integrates through our entire system. But in our lead tracker, we don't just check like who they are and who sent them, but we live and breathe by what their next steps are. Are they in a current sequence? I'll show you what all sequences, or why we keep using that word, in a second. What stage they're at, because this is how we could track all of our conversion. If we have a new realtor who sent us 5 leads, none of them have converted to pre-approval, well, I need to call the agent and say, hey, I swear we don't suck. This is what happened with this one. This is what happened with this one. Let's talk about it. Is there something we can do for you to refer them differently? Or am I not understanding how you're referring them and I should act differently? Or were these just kind of bad leads and you're totally fine that none of them converted? You're just throwing us stuff. And also, I'm happy to take it. I'm not offended that they didn't convert. You're not wasting my time. I just want to make sure we're serving you best. So many of us just don't ever have open conversations with our realtors about what's really going on with the client. Or we sit down with a client, or the client's frustrated about something, and instead of calling the agent after pre-approval and going, hey, they're totally thrown off that they don't qualify for what they thought, or they thought the numbers were going to look different, instead of calling and explaining that, we kind of just go, here's your pre-approval. And we just hope that it all works out, versus keeping the agent looped in on all the conversations we had so that they can understand how much of a business partner we're trying to be. So here's the things that we keep in on our lead tracker. Like I said, we live it, breathe it. The first thing that happens in our system is we get a realtor email intro from a client. If a realtor starts texting us leads all the time, I'll just ask them, can you always CC us on an email? That way my team can pop on if I'm in a pre-approval meeting or something like that. Forever, Shannon replies as me. She has access to my email. She replies as me with the same email template. We have a template for everything. In the next one, I'll show you a list of every template email we have. We keep them as signatures in our Outlook. So it's not anything robust by any means, and we just, every single time, thanks, Paige, Bobby and Susie. And then it's the email signature with, we'd love a chance to hop on a call with you. Do you have 5 or 10 minutes today? Nothing you need to prepare for. What's the best number and time to reach you at? For us, since it was just the two of us going at a pretty fast pace, we didn't have time to do well, I'll just call them and see if they pick up, or send them a text and go on the back and forth. We really had to schedule a time to connect on the phone. So we send that within, as soon as you see the email, you respond to it. It should take 1 second, whether it's me or Shannon. Shannon always takes the loan application over the phone. It takes 10 minutes. She literally has our LOS system open and just goes through, what are your purchasing goals? What's your ideal payment? What's your cash to close, condo, single family home, all of those things up front. Then we say, great, easy questions. Where do you live? Where do you work? Get all the info. While we're on the phone with them, we pull any information. We'll do the soft pull of their credit. If they have a 500 credit score, then we can just go, oh, hold on, we're going to pivot this. She doesn't need to then schedule a Zoom. We can kind of eliminate it right then and there. Same thing with work number stuff. If you can just pull verifications, we already know if we're going to need your pay stubs or not then, right? So those little things, she does it really quickly on the phone. Before she's off the phone with them, she says, great, Allison, like to schedule a team or a Zoom, which do you prefer? I like when they pick teams, so we push that one more because it's easier. And then she's like, great. She's going to share her screen with you. I'm going to get you this information ahead of time. We'll have you fully pre-approved and ready to purchase by the next meeting. Do you have any other immediate questions for us at all? They always say no. And then that is their deadline if we need any documents, so that we don't have this lingering, hey, they never uploaded their documents, so now we never have them pre-approved, and now it's Saturday morning and the agent wants to know where it is. And every step of this, we're updating the realtor. So they email intro us, we CC the realtor so they know we've responded. As soon as we have the loan application scheduled, we tell the realtor, we're talking to them today at 2. As soon as we have the pre-approval meeting scheduled, hey, Allison scheduled them at 3:00 Thursday. If you need anything before that, or they decide they're buying a house in the next hour, call me so we can hop on this so that we're not caught on our toes. And then the pre-approval meeting, Shannon has all of the notes, all of the loan summaries, and then any comparisons or strategy things I can go through in that meeting, she's got prepared for me. So usually that's a rent versus buy scenario, a cost of waiting scenario, points versus no points. We have a chart that I actually got from Denise Donahue that shows for every 1/8 of a point interest rates move, how it affects your monthly payment. We have all of those things ready, and a pre-approval presentation ready. When I get on the Zoom or the Teams meeting though, I don't just automatically just jump into the presentation. I spend a little bit of time figuring out who I'm talking to. Example, I talked to a girl this morning. I said, here's my plan for our meeting today. Before I jump into it, is there any questions you want to start with? She has clearly done all of her research, had 3 million questions. She's already looked at all the numbers. She doesn't need me to explain. And your taxes are in your monthly payment and your insurance is in your monthly payment. I would have been so annoying to her if I would have pulled up a slide deck and started going through boilerplate stuff. She just wanted to dive into it. So we had a full 30-minute call about the market, about how mortgage-backed securities trade, about why we have liquidity at certain coupons and not other coupons, because that's what she needed to hear. And I didn't open up any of the attachments. Other clients, I get on and you can tell they just are going to listen. They're not going to say one word back. They're just going to let you go for it. And then that gives me the, okay, I'm just going to keep going through stuff and asking questions until I can tell something sticks with them. And then I'll lean in more to that. Every single pre-approval meeting we have, we try and talk about something unique to the client that I know another lender is not going to talk about. So if they're nervous about their monthly payment and they qualify for more than they currently want to purchase or something like that right now, we're going, hey, one unique strategy might be to look at a higher price point on homes that have been sitting on the market. And let's see if you can get a 2-1 buy down, because actually it's going to be lower of a monthly payment than if we get into multiple offers at a 300 purchase price. And then as soon as I'm off that Zoom meeting or that Teams meeting, the first call is to the realtor to go, great news. I know you were probably panicked about spending the next 3 months writing multiple offers for 3% down, 300K first time home buyer in this market. We shifted it. We had a conversation of this strategy. Do you think this works for them? They buy in and then we're full speed ahead. And then one really big thing with realtors is they just need to know what to expect from us. So we try to have a lot of consistency in the process. And because then we can always check it off our list of all of the things are done, we can move on to the next. So this is a snip of every single time we send a recap email to an agent, this is included on their borrower so that if they're writing them up an offer, they're crystal clear. There's a paragraph above it that has the fluff and the things they need to know and what I talked about with them. But then this allows for them to go, okay, what is their top end? Why are they sending me 600K houses if Allison said their top end loan amount's 500K? And then they don't have to call me and ask a million questions. And if it's a new agent and I send this, I always say, make sure you save a folder in your inbox with all of these emails so that you always have them referenced so there's never any confusion. And it eliminates almost all weekend phone calls. And then after we have them fully pre-approved, then they go into our system of sequences. So we call them sequences. For you guys, they might be drip campaigns. Sequence is our outreach that is built into our CRM system that pulls directly from Salesforce. And it allows us to communicate based off how many days they've been in a sequence. So that might be a text, it might be an automated email, it might be a phone call. It's whatever is pertinent for that thing. And then I screenshotted all of our sequences we have built out right now. So as soon as I'm off the Zoom call, I CC Shannon on my notes and I say, okay, so we have, they said this, they're still shopping lenders. They're kind of shocked by the numbers, whatever those, whatever key things we need to know for our notes moving forward. And then I tell her what sequence they should be added to. Every single time we come up with a scenario where we should have followed up differently, we create a new sequence. So like this new construction sequence, we literally just made it last week because we lost someone in the process who's thinking about building. Well, I'm not going to send them the same information as I'm going to send someone who's out looking at houses on the weekend. They weren't in something and we just lost track of them. And so we create a sequence for it. Any little thing we can think of, a sequence is created. In these sequences, we also have tasks. So I used to like every Wednesday, every other week, I'd send in like a boilerplate template to the realtor of here's who we have pre-approved out looking. Here's this with these updates. And I felt like no one really read them. Or if they did read them, they took them with a grain of salt, or they read the first one and then they never replied to one after that. So now instead, in these pre-approved out looking campaigns, we have different tasks that remind me to call the realtor and go, hey, what's going on with so-and-so? Have they been out looking yet? What's great is for some of these realtors that we don't talk to every day, now I have a reason to call them. And that's my follow-up point. I might know darn well this client has not been out looking, but I'm still going to call the realtor so that I have something to chat with them about and build rapport without it seeming systematic. And also it gives me an opportunity to brag about the fact that we're following up with their clients 9 months after they got pre-approved going, hey, by the way, so-and-so said their lease was up in May. It's February. Have you heard from them at all? Because we've been reaching out to refresh their pre-approval. I want to make sure the ball is ready. And a realtor's like, wait, I sent you a lead a year ago that I never kept in contact with. And now you're still following up with them. So it makes a huge impact from that regard too.
Are you seeing some of these questions here? Number one, Meg Bluedow said, is your assistant licensed?
Yes.
Okay. Shauna Barrett said, you speak my language. These sequences are amazing. Where are you setting these up?
So this is in a system called Outreach, which I think is a Microsoft-based platform. Previous to Guild, we didn't have something that was hardwired into our system like Guild has. And so we were using a system called Bonzo that you can pay for yourself. I think it's $400 or $500 a month.
Cool. Sarah, I think she answered it, that the touches are sometimes text, sometimes email, sometimes phone call. So when you showed your calendar and you said outreach calls, because you have people on, let's see, 12 different sequences here, you just come in the morning and you have these tasks. And this one requires a text that's pre-filled out with you. You check and then you hit send. This one requires a call and it already has a script in there. You may use the script or not, and you call, but you don't think, you just show up and do what is said because everybody's on an intentional sequence based on where they're at. And then obviously with sequences, if you had somebody on the, cold lead sequence, but all of a sudden you've met with them and that's now a warm pre-approval, you change the sequence. So they're now being communicated with differently based on where they went. And if all of a sudden they jump into new construction, now they're in the new construction sequence. And so the point of having a plan is so that you don't have to think and you don't have to rely on your feelings and your emotions for the day on how motivated you are. All you have to do is say, I can, first of all, I can learn from somebody like Allison. I know that I see several of my guild friends on this thread. All these sequences are copy and shareable inside of Guild. So if Allison is the best ad copywriter, which I know you probably just ripped off and duplicated, Allison, because you're a quick implementer.
I actually poured my heart and soul into these sequences like 2 years ago when we made them in Bonzo. My bestie, Andy Zeman, I don't know if he's on here. I was going to copy his and I was like, Andy talks like a game show host. I can't send this to my clients. And so I had to recreate all my own because I didn't have anyone to copy. It took me an entire like month of December to do it. And I actually, Alice Hahn from the outreach program, she was like, you get incredible click rate. Like your response rate on these is awesome. I was like, thank you. I've tried so hard to do these, but what's really cool about this stuff too, guys, is if you have it built in like this, no matter what system you're using, you can see who's responding, who's opening, and what your success rate of these is. And so if all of a sudden you're having terrible success rate, go back and look because you're speaking some language that they're not receiving. So someone asked an example of one of the sequences. So pre-approved outlooking in the next 6 months. So the first thing is the day after they're getting an email from me saying, congratulations again on being pre-approved. And then it has links to my YouTube channel. So there's a channel there that says, I'm pre-approved, now what? And in that channel, there's a couple of videos of things that maybe they would have been nervous to ask me on the phone. So should I shop around for an interest rate? How does my interest rate lock? What are discount points? Some of those like probing questions that I just don't think people know. One thing, I don't know if it's in there. I was going to check today to add it if it's not, but a video on how does my lender get paid? These are things people don't know when they're on a call with us. And sometimes they might pivot and go watch those instead. So that's one of the first emails that go out. And none of the emails feel like templated emails. It feels like I typed up the email just like I always communicate with them because I want them to feel like they should respond to these. And then a week later, a text message goes out. And they're told this is a team text line. My cell phone number is on stuff, but also this is your personal loan concierge phone number. It gives myself and Shannon. So if I'm on a meeting like this, someone's going to respond right away. And then, so all of those texts, Shannon just hits send on in the morning. She doesn't even second guess it. She's just as hitting send and I'm doing the phone calls. And then we just kind of tag team the system that way. And then after the text goes out saying, hey, it's been a week since your pre-approval. I wanted to see if you have any questions. Then, I think it's 2 weeks later, then it's a phone call saying, hey, have you guys been out looking at anything? How does the market feel to you? Blah, blah, blah. So it's just really conversational things like that along the way.
So I want to pause because we all have excuses and we all have reasons, but you can either have excuses or results. And when I was talking to Allison and she called me and said, hey, I've been working in this company for 8 years. I love the people I'm working with. Nothing's really broken, but I feel stagnant. And I'm 33 and I'm too young to feel stagnant. And I know I have a lot of potential and I think I need to come work with you. So we went through this process and she said, so tell me about Salesforce. Tell me about outreach. And when I saw what she had done and spent a month of her time to write these sequences in her own voice, I was blown away because most people don't take the time. And second, I said, well, you might just want to keep doing what you're doing because obviously it's working. And if you're going to have change, maybe you have minimal change. Well, I was downplaying because most people don't execute and implement, but that wasn't Allison Larson. She, within like 3 weeks of being here, she's like, listen, I want to get on outreach. I want to use all the systems that are all integrated. I don't want to be that rogue, rugged individualist that's out here running my own program on my own janky shit. Like, I want to be all in. And if I'm with you, Shayla, I'm all in. And so, Allison, I just need to stop and commend you because it's been incredible to see how you just lean in. You are on your toes. You're eager to learn. You just are the rhino that's going to bulldoze into the jungle and figure stuff out. And what you did is you met with Allison and said, hey, here's all the stuff that I've written. Can you build this into outreach, into Guild? And you used a who. Because guys, it's not how often, it's who, not how. All Allison needed was some who's around her to shift her energy and to put her car into the fifth gear. And so when she got with Allison, she said, or Alice, Hahn, here's my stuff. And Alice put it in there. Now, the benefit to all of you on this call that work at Guild is now that it's in outreach, you can literally go and copy Allison's sequence and go save as, spend an hour reading through her language and decide if it's your language or if you would tweak some things. But you don't have to dream up from step number one. Do I call first? Do I text first? Do I email first? What does the call say? She's done all of that and she's got the proven results on it. In fact, Alice will show you this one has a 57% response rate. This one has an 87% response rate. What do you want to do? And that is the benefit of being in community. This is also why I've just dove head in and said, I'm starting a coaching program. I started the coaching program at Guild Mortgage and I'm still involved with the Elevate coaching program. I'm very proud of it. We have over 200 and something students. We coach on this stuff every day. We say, here's how to actually use all the tools and the technology for the efficiency and with your team. Because if you heard Allison, she's not the one executing all the strategies. She's built the system and then she's very clear, I'm in my swim lane. I'm the one that makes calls because I'm the biggest closer on the team. I'm the salesperson on the team. And my teammate over here, Shannon, she executes a checklist like a beast. And so she's over here sending the texts, I'm making the calls, and we are running together super, super, super efficiently because I have a plan. I have a plan and I'm going to show up to coaching to continue learning and now to be held accountable. So I guess since I'm already giving a commercial for the coaching, some of you are just joining and you hadn't joined last week, but I'm officially starting Catalyst Coaching, which is going to start in July. For the first semester between now and my next Slay with Shay event, it's going to be every single week. Don't worry. The lessons on leadership, on mindset, on tactics, getting people like Allison and Brett Baird and Brendan Donaldson and Jorge and Amanda and all the people that are in our community and can speak and teach and participate. I will have those all in a online portal community so you can keep caught up. But the most important component is accountability. It's you came to this call, you said you're going to do the one thing. Did you do the one thing? You said you were going to start at 8 a.m. and do your outreach calls. Did you do the outreach calls? You said you were going to call these 3 whale agents. Did you do the thing? Right. And that's going to be a component of it. I make it super affordable. It's $297 a month because it sounds fancier than $300 a month. So I don't even have a website built yet. I don't even have a logo built yet. But we'll probably launch this thing and have, I don't know, 50, 60 people that are on a call with me every single week and have resources like an Allison. And we're going to have this shared benefit of everybody helping each other. So that's in the chat. If you have not signed an interest list to be a part of Catalyst Coaching and it's something you want to do and you weren't at my event, click on the link, send that, fill out that link and we'll do it.
And for the record,
yeah.
the reason I initially started talking with Shayla, I had literally would scour the internet to be like, what else? What other mortgage coach call did she do? What other podcast interview did she do? It's when you find those people in this business who script like you do, are trying to approach it like you do, are in it doing the work, hold on to them and follow them because that will be the number one driving thing for you to not have to reinvent the wheel constantly. Not everyone does things how you're going to do them. You really have to find the people that you're like, you can hear them talk or you can hear them say something and you can plug and play and go, yes, I could say it exactly like that and change my business tomorrow. And as soon as you find that, just hold on to it and keep leaning into that. So if you resonate with what Shayla is saying, that's why I'm here. So it was like, if this girl can pour into me every single week, my business will double and without question.
Thank you. And thank you for showing up. And I just want to acknowledge everybody here. We have over 100 of you showing up on a short week because you're eager and you're hungry and you want to learn and you want to grow and you want to improve yourself. And your energy feeds our energy. And it's just this kinetic energy back and forth. And it's so fun to celebrate each other's successes and to just have fresh ideas, right? And belief and get onto this call with a little more oomph and going, yes, I'm going to do this thing. So take us home, Allison, and I'm going to ask everybody, what's the one thing you're going to implement as we finish this call? I'll have you look at your notes, but thank you for the sequences. This is powerful.
So I would say last things I didn't touch on, and next week we can go more into who does what and systems and all the checklist type of things, but one thing I think we all struggle right now with is in these pre-approval meetings, how are we setting ourselves apart and how are we keeping them sticky to us? I was finding I was educating people, pouring into them, offering the best service. We were one of the number one purchase lenders in the state last year. So a lot of agents know who we are and they're using our pre-approval letter to get an accepted offer. And then Monday morning rolls around and Wings Financial Credit Union, bane of my existence, is like, oh, well, we have a 5% 30-year fixed interest rate. Do you want that? They didn't have to work for it, they didn't have to do anything for it. And great for the clients because I've already done all the education for them and given them everything they need. And so at the end of our pre-approval meeting, after I've gone through all of the things, if there's one thing you can implement today, this is probably the easiest thing to start doing tomorrow. I took part of it from Chantry and part of it from another podcast, but saying, ending it and just saying, thank you again for taking the time, is did we cover everything you wanted to cover? They always say yes, or if they have any last minute questions, they'll ask them then. Great. If you're comfortable, I'd like to get a pre-approval letter and our credit certified pre-approval or whatever your company calls your extra due diligence pre-approval letter over to your real estate agent for when you're ready to make an offer. I want to talk a little bit on this though, because when I send this and you submit an offer, whatever you submit with your offer is part of the terms of that agreement. I am ready to go to bat for you on evenings and weekends. I'll always share the stat about we're one of the top purchase lenders in the state. So oftentimes the listing agent will recognize our pre-approval letters because we always pull through on them 100% of the time. But before I do that, I want to make sure you guys are comfortable moving forward with me and that all the numbers and information we reviewed today feel good to you. They're telling you yes or no, do they want to work with you? If they are going to take all this information and use Wings Financial Credit Union on Monday morning, just know now, then I don't have to get off the boat to go call their listing agent on a Saturday. I can call the agent afterwards and say, hey, they want to use a credit union instead. And we can sell against that up front because I didn't release their pre-approval letter. And so getting some kind of tie down close from them on the pre-approval is the number one thing that's helping us against the losing it last minute, all of that type of stuff. And then other thing is, how are we reminding them if they do take 9 months to purchase of the service we're offering? Are you redoing a pre-approval meeting? Are you sending a pre-approval letter out if they're saying they're not going to buy for a year? Because if you are, now we've kind of shot ourselves in the foot because they don't remember what you said in a week from now. So we want to have that conversation when they're really ready to write. If they're a year out, we're just doing a planning meeting. I'm not sending a pre-approval letter. We still have to get pre-approved. And so just being really clear on your boundaries, your value, the impact you have on them getting an accepted offer. And so that they know. And one thing, Shayla, you said it last year at the Modern Mortgage Summit, explaining how you get paid. Guys, I don't make a dime unless we get you to the closing table. And being okay sharing that with them, because what I found is sometimes these people's parents work at a bank. They think you work at a bank. Well, their mom has a salary. Why wouldn't you have a salary? Maybe they think you get like an extra $100 bonus if you close their loan. They have no idea that you're 100% referral based and you get paid $0 if they never make it to the closing table. So not being scared to share that with them, I think is key as well.
So what she said is gain verbal commitment. And here's another way of saying it, Wendy. Based on everything that we've discussed and gone over today, and all the preparation I've done for this meeting and given to you here, do you feel comfortable choosing me as your loan officer? Do you feel comfortable choosing me as your loan officer to help you get an accepted offer and help you achieve this goal of homeownership? Okay. You got to remember that they need to realize they're choosing a person, not a company. Because when they think it's a big company, the Walmarts or the Targets, it's different than a person, right? And most people, if they give you a verbal commitment, like, yes, I want to choose you. And then knowing Allison, she'd probably be like, great, because we're going to be best friends forever. And we're going to be on social together. And you're going to know everything about my baby. And I'm going to blah, 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 blah. And right off the bat, like you have a whole different relationship. But if you've never asked, just like you close your realtor meeting saying, I genuinely really enjoy this. And I really want to be connected and find a way to do business and be friends and like do life together. would you be okay with you if I followed up? I'm batching your words, but it's the intention, it's the heart. People feel that, gain that verbal commitment. The other thing, Allison, was how good was that all access call we had this month talking about pre-approvals? And basically, when you show up to a pre-approval meeting, if you're just educating on FHA versus conventional 3% down, they can get all that stuff on the internet. What makes you referable? When did they go, oh, I'm so lucky to have this realtor and this loan officer in my back pocket, is when, like you said, you've got that certified pre-approval, but you help them write the most competitive offer. Because of your process and the work that you do to cover their ass, you help them be the most competitive while not doing stupid things. You help with the terms being the most attractive to the seller. So if that's something that's appealing to you, we'll probably just include it in the follow-up email. It has nothing to do with Allison, but it's a call that I'm really passionate about because I think it speaks to these processes. Guys, if you work so hard to get the lead and then you don't do these key things in your meetings, you're going to be forever frustrated. And I think Brendan said it, that the quality of your business life is determined by the quality of your client and the quality of the realtor partners you choose. We do have a say in this, and it's time to take control. Final thing, please write in the chat, what is something you're going to do? We will see you next week. I won't be able to write them down, but you need to state to yourself and everyone else with a big star and a circle, this is what I'm going to do. I've already heard Allison look into outreach. So for all of you that are going to reach out to Alice Hahn, Alice is going to be like, oh gosh, Allison taught a class. I love it. Better tracking and follow-ups. Let's see, baked processes, consistently tracking your leads. Yes, Ellie, 100%. And tell your agents how you do it and why you do it. Do you use Mortgage Coach? You mentioned that multiple times, Allison.
We have Mortgage Coach. We use MBS highway scenarios a lot. We come prepared with all of the options to present at the meeting, and then we present whatever makes most sense in the client by asking those questions. One key to your pre-approval meeting too is by getting them to say things like, your rate seems high, this monthly payment is higher than I anticipated. That you want to figure out what their pain points are. That's the whole point of the pre-approval meeting, not for you to throw up on them about what FHA financing is.
Yep. That's so good. I mean, we could go into the all about you. There was so much of the stuff that we covered at the retreat, you guys, which by the way, we have another retreat November 13th, 14th. So I'm going to just keep plugging. If you like this community, if you want more access, if you're wanting to be around Allison and me and the program, like get into coaching, come to the retreat in November. My websites will start helping you out with all this stuff, probably going to ShaylaGifford.com. Awesome. Better tracking, more loan templates, clean up your outreach, tell the client how we are paid. That was so good, Michelle. Thank you, Ty, tracking leads in more detail. We did not get the checklist. We will do that next call, Allison, of when you said, I better be able to get all the details in 1 minute before that client appointment. I think that's a perfect segue for the next call of how do you work with a teammate? How do you flow and come in every day and you're not interrupting all day and you know what each other does and you have a body double and you get the real gain and scalability from a teammate. I can't wait for you to tell us about Shannon, about what you guys have built, about that process. We'll talk about hiring, how you find the right person, and then how you work together. This is the time, guys, where if you really double down on these things, you will see a big separation, I promise. Thank you for spending the time with us. Allison, you crushed it once again.
Thanks, guys.
Post on Instagram and tag Allison. Let's give her some love. Thank you for being here. See you soon.
Thanks, guys.